Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. The Atlanta Hawks, I think, are going to be in for one hell of a season next year. Look, I know they just traded away John Collins. They had a pretty good draft. Got my man out of the University of Michigan, but we really don't expect rookies to do a lot. Even though he looks like kind of a Jordan Poole-esque type player at about 6'5", really skilled, scores on three layers and plays defense. So a great young talent. But what I'm most excited about is actually the talent that is already on this roster despite the loss of John Collins. You see, right now when we look at this team and how they are constructed, they're actually in a great place. And I know that a lot of people are going to kind of, take a double take and be like, what? In a great place? Yes, they are in a great place. They're in a great place because they have cap flexibility. They have multiple contracts that are quality, good contracts that are very tradable, meaning that they can go out and get another asset. They can pursue other players. And I actually want to get into that in a moment. But it's to say that not only do they have that contract flexibility, the cap flexibility, they also have a dearth of young talent that's actually actualizing and looking like they're going to be ready to be starting level players, whether it's Jalen Johnson, whether it's AJ Griffin. And they also already have their incumbent stars. They have guys that they have the ability to build around. They have guys that are already playoff tested and ready to contribute at a high level. They have a hierarchy. They have a system. They have the coaching. They have a team that's been to the playoffs, been to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is a team that's not trying to get somewhere that they haven't been necessarily before, and that's in terms of team success. Right? They're not the Charlotte Hornets where you're still wondering, is this even a playoff team? Can they get there? This isn't a Minnesota Timberwolves team that barely got to the playoffs, and when they do, they get blown out. Right? This isn't the type of team that's still struggling to even figure out their identity. This is a team that knows who they are to an extent, and what they're doing is the smart thing. Let me repeat that. The Atlanta Hawks are doing the smart thing. They're not making wholesale changes. They're not getting rid of guys because they haven't reached the mountaintop or the expectations of fans. What they're doing is they're being very strategic and maneuvering, maintaining a competitiveness with the talent that they have that they know that they can build around. Tre Young is a piece you can build around. DeJounte Murray, I think he's a great piece to fit alongside of a Tre Young that I think they're still seeing if he can be a guy that they build around. If you got guys like DeAndre Hunter, you've got guys like Clint Capella. You've got guys like Onyeagwa Okongwu, Jalen Johnson. You got guys like Bogdanovich. You have a dearth of talent on this team that competes for the playoffs every single year. Even though they lost in the play-in, they were still there. And they're still figuring themselves out. When you look at where they were with Nate McMillan at the end of last season versus who they were after they brought in Quinn Snyder, you saw this team began to turn a corner. And so when you think about next season, you have to keep in mind what they were building upon from last year, what the players looked like in the playoffs. Jalen Johnson looked damn good in the playoffs. Saddiq Bey looked really good for them off the bench as a 6'8" forward who can stretch the floor and heat up quickly. So when we start thinking about what they're going to look like next season, I think we have to kind of keep in mind it's not all about championship or bust because nobody gets there overnight. Shout out to the Philadelphia 76ers who are still trying to get there despite having seemingly all the talent in the world to be able to do so. They are still figuring out how to put it all together. They've only gotten to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So before you begin to say, look at everybody above them, outside of the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat in the East, nobody has really had this great lengthy amount of success in the playoffs. So when we look at the Atlanta Hawks and the state of this team going into next year, you should still be encouraged if you're an Atlanta Hawks fan. You should be encouraged. You should be excited because you know what? Tre Young is only 24 years old. Ironically, and I didn't even realize this, John Collins was only 25 years old. You got Clint Capella and Bogdanovich, who are 29 and 30, who are their veterans on this team, and even they are still in their prime. You got DeJounte Murray at 26, DeAndre Hunter at 25, Onyeagwa Okongwu at 22 years old. AJ Griffin is 19, Saddiq Bey is 24, Jalen Johnson is 21. So when we think about the talent on this team, we have to realize that they're still growing. They're still developing, which means that there is a lot of opportunity for this team to figure out who is going to be a part of a championship run. Now, something that I said I was going to get back to from the beginning is their ability to package guys to potentially go out and bring in a higher level player. One person that I want to kind of throw out there that they might be interested in pursuing is Karl Anthony Towns. Now, the first person I wanted for them was DeAndre Ayton. Really, a lot of it is because I just want DeAndre Ayton to get the hell out of Phoenix, right? I want to see what he can do within an offensive system that actually wants to highlight his ability on offense and make him a primary scoring option. I think he could be the number one scoring option on a playoff contending team. I don't necessarily think he's the guy he's not Hakeem Olajuwon or Shaquille O'Neal, where they're going to drop 40 points in the NBA Finals and dominate in that way. But I think he's the guy who can give you 26 and 12 for a full season and be the reason why you get to the Eastern Conference semifinals and finals, and then you have a Tre Young take over, right, and explode playing off of him. That's what I could foresee. Karl Anthony Towns, I could also see being that level of play. All right, let me just say this. Look, what he costs you on defense, I think he makes up for on offense, and he kind of gives you this neutral, right? He doesn't necessarily move the needle in too drastic of a way unless you have everything else you need around him to make up for his shortcomings, which means that you have a point guard who takes the decision-making out of his hands, much like Jalen Brunson did with Julius Randle and made him look really good again. When you have defensive players around Karl Anthony Towns and make sure that you can make up for his lack of ability to defend and make sure he's in the right place, then you can actually look really good. And with Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, and DeJounte Murray, you could do just that. With guys off the bench like Onyeagwa Okongwu, you have guys who can do just that. And so when we think about the potential of this team, I would not be shocked if they made that type of move. I would not be shocked at all. Don't be shocked if James Wiseman has a great year next season for the Detroit Pistons. And going into free agency, he prices himself out of Detroit Pistons' budget. Because if Jalen Duren has a great year and James Wiseman has a great year, they're not going to pay James Wiseman. They're probably going to do a sign and trade or let him walk if a team overpays. And so the Atlanta Hawks are in a great position to do things like package a Clint Capella and a Bogdan Bogdanovic, who are both making about $18 million a year, 20 and 18 going into the next season, where they can package that and bring in a superstar level player. They can bring in an all-star. They can bring in a max salary contract player who they can pair alongside of Tre Young, and now you have your 1-2 punch that can really make a run. When you think about the Atlanta Hawks, don't just think about them in comparison to other teams' success. Think about them where they are at right now. And that's damn exciting. Yo, if you agree, disagree, holla at me in the comment section. Let me know what moves that they might do, what moves you hope that they do. What do you think the projection is of this team and their young core, and even their draft pick this year? If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Working my way towards 1,000 subs. So I appreciate all the love and support. This is Ross with The Rock Never Stops, and I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.